Hello, kia ora. It's Friday the 12th of June. Thank you for joining me as we take a look at your weekend weather forecast and the rainfall outlook for the next several days ahead. And speaking of rain, we've got a cold front moving up the South Island at the moment. It moved around Southland and Otago and southern parts of the South Island overnight. There were a few heavier falls further to the south, but as the front moved on through Canterbury and up the west coast, it has broken apart. So the rainfall becoming patchy and sort of more showery rather than a widespread area of rain. That is going to gradually move into the North Island, but there is a lot of high pressure centred just to the west of New Zealand at the moment. It does cover the country. That's why that front is falling apart. And it's also helping to produce this cloudy, gloomy weather that we've got around many parts of the North Island, especially the upper North Island, where there's been some fog patches and low cloud as we kicked off Friday. So the high pressure is clearly visible here on the air pressure map, just out to the west of New Zealand, two different centres, and you've got that front gradually moving into the North Island. So as we go into the later part of today, areas that started off with no wind may start to notice a southwesterly breeze kicking up around places like Auckland and Coromandel Peninsula, and a southeasterly coming in through Cook Strait. So generally speaking, the North Island has southerly quarter winds, the South Island has light winds, and they're variable coming in from different directions. But a lot of high pressure is moving on through. So let's kick off now with the 7-day rainfall animation. This is brought to you by Nedap, and you can see the rain that we've already had and what is coming on through in the days ahead with the timestamp over here. So we've got some heavy rain coming up in the next 7 days for the west coast, some of that spilling over into the western side of the lower North Island, but there is very little in the way of rain for Hawke's Bay, Bay of Plenty, and even coastal and eastern and central parts of Otago, but 100 millimetres plus coming up through some locations of the west coast and even around the lower part of the North Island, mostly up in the ranges there. So let's have a look now at the forecast for noon Saturday, and this is a 24-hour rainfall map from lunchtime today through to lunchtime tomorrow. You can see just a few showers on the western and northern parts of the North Island, and a couple of showers also up around northern Hawke's Bay, Mahia Peninsula, otherwise dry. In the South Island, most of that rain just is offshore, but between Greymouth and Westport, you've got a few heavier falls coming on through there. But for 24 hours, you're seeing a lot of places with dry weather as we go through Saturday. The winds are light on Saturday, so once more, we'll get fog patches here and there. Both of the main islands have the risk of fog. Here we are on Sunday. So now we've got high pressure consolidating over Northland and Auckland, Coromandel Peninsula, parts of Waikato. Once you go further southwards, a slight west to northwesterly wind picks up. That drives in more cloud and a few showers. So this may not be the sunniest high pressure zone we've had. Eastern areas are likely to be the driest and potentially the sunniest as well. But once you get from the Manawatu region down to Southland, you've got a windier airflow. So fog's no longer a problem, although low cloud could still be around. And you start to see the rain clouds and showers building up along the west coast. This is not a 24-hour rainfall map. This is just the snapshot at lunchtime on Sunday. So there is patchy rain around the west coast and patchy rain or showers around western parts of the North Island. So the further south you go, pretty much the heavier the wet weather gets along the western side. Eastern areas will be mostly dry, and it'll be warmer on Sunday as well. Both Sunday daytime and Sunday nighttime should see a lift in temperatures in many places. Still a little bit cooler at nighttime up here in the north with a lack of wind. So here's Monday's rainfall map. Now this is again 24 hours of rain from lunchtime Sunday through to lunchtime Monday. Heaviest falls along the west coast. Up in the mountains, you're seeing about 80 millimetres of rain coming through, and then a little bit of spillover into Canterbury, Otago, western areas of Southland, but it's not very much. But you will see a little bit of wet weather potential coming through for those eastern areas. Mostly dry for Nelson and Marlborough. And then you go into the North Island, and again, it's the western side getting the chance of rain and showers. A bit of a patchy kind of forecast. Most places are dry, especially Waikato northwards. You're seeing drier weather coming through there, except for maybe on the very coastline, you might get clipped by a downpour or two. Bay of Plenty's mostly dry. Might be a shower over there in the east, but the eastern side of the country is driest. Only a little bit of wet weather will spill over around those southern ranges, and lightest of the winds will be up around Northland and Auckland on Monday. And Tuesday's rainfall map also 24 hours from lunchtime Monday to lunchtime Tuesday, showing the polar boundary here coming right on through central New Zealand. Now the good thing about this is if you're in Canterbury, you need some rain. There are some very dry areas around parts of the eastern South Island. You've got some rain coming through, maybe 20, potentially up to 30 or even 40 millimetres in some locations, and some heavier falls again in the lower part of the North Island up in the hills. You're seeing up to 60 millimetres falling there and 20 to 40 millimetres down around sea level. And then that colder airflow punches through up towards Taranaki. Temperature drop for you. It'll be noticeably colder. And I didn't mention on Monday with the polar boundary around the south, but again here on Tuesday, that means snow along the mountains and ranges. So that'll be some good news. Canterbury getting a chance of snow on the mountains here and the ski fields as we go from Monday into Tuesday. By the time you go into the northeastern corner here, by the time we get to the lunchtime period on Tuesday, yes, there are some showers around, but it's mostly dry from places like Gisborne. So a showery, sort of patchy wet day there. Now going to Wednesday, just the snapshot at lunchtime, not a 24-hour rainfall map. You just see a few showers lingering around the western side of the North Island, mostly from Manawatu up to Northland. Still fairly dry in many places. Very weak front coming through here up the South Island, mostly moving along the west coast. Fairly low rainfall totals, but it could be a little bit wet there from Tuesday night going into Wednesday lunchtime, and a few showers also around Southland. Now the wind is a southwesterly flow around New Zealand. The winds can change direction here and there locally, like more of a west to northwesterly maybe around the lower North Island, but you'll feel that colder airflow blowing through Southland and around the Chatham Islands, the polar boundary over you on Wednesday, so that'll be a cold day. Further northwards, a tropical or subtropical low leaving Fiji, and like I said yesterday, not expecting that to directly affect New Zealand, and a larger low out here over the Great Australian Bight. And so by Thursday, our final map shows, again, the cold weather just brushing Southland and Stewart Island, showers coming through there or patchy kind of rain. The North Island, a few showers possible up around the north of New Zealand, and also maybe one or two isolated showers coming in through the western side of the lower North Island. Otherwise, mostly dry weather, high pressure again building out here at sea. Thanks for joining me. Have yourselves a great weekend. I'll see you again at the start of next week.